All right, RJ, it's finally the Kraken news we've been waiting for. The Seattle Kraken have their first player in Luke Henman. Why don't you tell us about him?
That's right. We have a player. On Wednesday, the Kraken signed Luke Henman, making him the first player in the history of the franchise. Henman's a 21-year-old center from the Armada of the Quebec Major Junior Hockey League. He was a fourth-round draft pick by the Hurricanes in 2018. So there's the Ron Francis connection. Francis was GM of the Hurricanes, right up until that summer. So he was probably pretty involved in evaluating Henman at the time. After 2 years, the Hurricanes let Henman's rights expire, so the Kraken were able to sign him as a free agent. So, Dylan, you're a resident junior scout. What do you think of Henman as a player, and when can we expect to see him in a Kraken jersey?
Well, the first thing that I notice when I look at him and I start looking at his bio is he's a very thin man. He's listed at 6 foot and only 168 pounds, and that's up about 20 pounds from when he was 18 and drafted by Carolina. So that's going to be his first obstacle in making it to the NHL is just getting over that kind of slim frame that he has. The other thing I notice is the fact that he has 9 goals in 9 playoff games so far this year. That's something that's pretty hard to ignore because, he's the team captain for one, so he's already taking on that responsibility. And here he is leading his team into a playoff run where, if you're scoring a goal a game, like you literally cannot ask a player to do more for you than that. As far as his on ice game goes, he has a really solid nose for the net. He's always driving towards the net, which I love to see from a center. He's not just trying to take shots from high in the slot or anything. He's actively going to the net. The one thing to keep in mind though is he is playing in the QMJHL. So if you watch any of his highlights, you'll instantly notice that time and space is aplenty there. No one really bodies up anybody. Forwards, don't back check super aggressively. So, you can take his stats kind of with a grain of salt, knowing that that's a very high scoring league traditionally. And a lot of players have put up some pretty godlike numbers, it seems. As far as him making the Kraken roster, mostly because of his size, I'm going to say he probably will need a couple years, 2 to 3 years, playing in the AHL, just because I don't know that someone at his height and weight can really survive an NHL schedule. We haven't really seen guys do that. Sometimes in really skilled players situations, if they're a high draft pick, they'll start as an 18-year-old, but the teams really focus on adding weight onto their frames during that first rookie year for them, and they'll typically bulk up about 15 pounds. The one that comes to mind is Ryan Nugent-Hopkins. He was drafted and he was 180 when he was drafted, and they put him on a 20,000 calorie a day diet, the Oilers, just to try to get him strong enough to be able to play in the NHL. So because of that, I'm going to say if we see him, we probably won't see him for 2 or 3 seasons.
Right. And, in the meantime, maybe we'll see him in the AHL and we're rooting for him. It'll be interesting to see how the Kraken feature him while he's their only player too. The Golden Knights had a lot of fun content with Reed Duke, the little soccer game where he's just playing by himself. But whatever happens with Henman, wherever his career takes him, Luke Henman will always hold a special place in the history of the Kraken. He'll forever be the answer to a trivia question. He's been a social media trend, and for the time being, he's the face of the franchise.
Yeah, I can't wait to, see if they do stuff with him once his playoff run's over, if they bring him over to Seattle, and then they can start doing some PR opportunities with him before the expansion draft in July. All right, and we have some other news from this past week, RJ.
Yes. So as we mentioned, Wednesday was a huge day for the Kraken with the Luke Henman signing, but we got perhaps some even better news on Thursday that while it relates to the Kraken, it goes beyond sports in general even, and it's a big step toward returning to life as normal. Thursday, Governor Inslee announced that Washington will move to fully reopen the state by June 30th, allowing for increasingly larger groups of people at events like concerts and sporting events. As part of his quote from the statement, he said, "The basic bottom line of this is that our state, most of our businesses, will stay at 50% capacity for most indoor activities, but on June 30th, that will be lifted and go back to 100%. So obviously that is a great sign for the chances of a completely full arena for the Kraken's first game in October, which of course is crucially important. And hopefully it will open up more possibilities for the expansion draft too. It'll be July 21st, so that's 3 weeks after the restrictions should be lifted. So hopefully we can get some more updates on what they're planning to do for that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm really excited for that expansion draft. We talked last week about kind of what their plans have been so far that they've announced, and I'm looking forward to being there in person, and I'd love to be surrounded by as many Kraken fans as possible, right? So
Absolutely.
it's exciting news. All right, so thanks everybody for joining us for this week's edition of Kraken News. As always, leave a comment down below. Let us know if you're excited about Luke Henman being the first Kraken player in franchise history. Make sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already so you don't miss any of our future uploads. We'll see you next time.